And welcome to the Monday night edition of the People Show on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I am Mark Wallace, your host and facilitator, and we have a power-packed program for you tonight. You are going to be hearing from all of the endorsed candidates from 10 by 10 to Win, which is my independent Black voting block that we are organizing. It belongs to all of us. We're organizing an independent Black voting block of Black voters in Chicago, Cook County, and then the state of Illinois, in order for us to make sure that we ensure the power of our vote. What do I mean by that? Is that we have elected more than almost 200 Black elected public officials to public office, which is a good thing. But what we have not done is we have not cracked the machine politics, because although we have changed the faces in political structures, the dynamics have not changed that greatly. And we need to do that. And the way that we're going to do that is going to have to come from the power of we. WE, which is, in my view, one of the most powerful words within the democratic process. We, the people. It is all of us together. It is not a silo of an individual that is going to, quote unquote, come to save us. We are going to save us, but we have to do that through our political infrastructure. But we have to take control of our political infrastructure by coalescing ourselves together in a corporate collective agenda. We have more than 1.5 million registered Black voters in Chicago and in the Cook County area. No one can win a citywide, countywide, or statewide office without the plurality of the Black vote. And we need to use that to our advantage and to our strength. So what I am calling for us to do is to organize ourselves together to strengthen our union of voting within our community. That is where the power is. The power has to be with the people. And not that we are anti anybody else. We are as pro lifting up all of our communities as any one communities. But we certainly have to be pro our own communities to make sure that our community is represented equitably, and to make sure that our representatives are representing our communities equitably and not special interests. We have too much special interest representation in the political spectrum. When we had the vote on the budget in the city council a few months ago, the majority of the Black vote, or the Black aldermen, voted against the interest of their own constituents in favor of corporations. That cannot be. And the only way that that could be is either the corporations own our representatives, or they're pouring money into the machine politics, and we have to break the machine politics by allowing and making sure that we as the people have a much stronger voice than any one person's checkbook. And that's what we have to do. We have to check power, and we have to make sure that no one can purchase our democratic process. Because if it is for sale and someone can purchase it, then it is no longer a democracy. We see that happening on the national level. And we cannot allow for that to happen on a national level. And we certainly cannot allow for it to seep down into our state level, and certainly not into our local level. It does not belong anywhere within our democratic process. All right, we got a power pack program for you, and we're going to be introducing to you all of our endorsed candidates from 10 by 10 to Win. And up first with us is Juanita Irizarry. who is running for the 1st District of the Board of Review. And she is running for that seat, and she is running against the incumbent, George Cardenas. And we at 10 by 10 to Win have endorsed her, and she is here with us as our official endorsed candidate. How you doing?
Yay, I'm great. I just early voted myself with my family, and so glad that we are almost at the finish line.
All right, fantastic. And we have to get you over the finish line so that we get you elected into certainly into the primary and into that seat. All right, we have tonight we have all our endorsed candidates on, so I don't want to seep into your time. So I want to open up by giving you the opportunity one final time to introduce yourselves to the audience as our endorsed candidate. Let people know about you and what it is that you are seeking to do as the commissioner at the 1st District of the Board of Review.
Thank you so much. You know, it really has been maybe not surprising, but really amazing how much people want to talk about property taxes in this cycle. I went into this race imagining that the Board of Review is a bit obscure and people don't know what it is, but really it's on the tip of everybody's tongue because everyone's property tax bills have gone up because the bills were late. And so I'm running because we need to change the way the system works. And one of the key levers right now is the Board of Review. And what has been happening at that level is that the commissioners, there are 3 commissioners, vote on whether or not to provide a rebate or a discount, a reduction on a property when someone comes in to appeal their property taxes. And the reductions that they have been giving have overwhelmingly gone to big corporations. And so what we have seen, as you have been talking about, is the corporations are getting away with murder. And, you know, we are not making them carry their burden because of the way my opponent tends to do the work, right? So there's been a $2 billion shift of property tax burden off the super wealthy and those big corporations and onto the rest of us. And people are really confused about why their property tax bill went up, right? So I love when I have the opportunity to really talk through this with people, because even in communities where our property values stayed the same or even went down, the bill still went up because the super wealthy folks were let off the hook of paying their fair share. And that's because the Board of Review is giving them these discounts. So I am running to stop that because our property taxes should not be going up and we should not be carrying the burden of the wealthy.
So let's help people to understand what is going on, because we have 3 Cook County Board of Review commissioners. We have 3 districts, 1, 2, and 3. You are running for 1, George, or Larry Rogers Jr. is in 3, and Samantha Steele is in 2. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct.
Right. So, and what happens is corporations or large commercial property owners hire a tax appeal attorney. Tax appeal attorney comes before the Board of Review. The Board of Review reviews their appeal, and they vote on up or down. And there has to be a majority, and the majority of 2 of them. And in most cases, George Cardenas, along with Larry Rogers Jr., both who have received thousands of dollars from tax appeal attorneys, tend to vote for those tax reductions. And those tax reductions ended up getting shifted off onto the homeowners. So that is what you are looking to stop. So go ahead.
And I'm not taking any contributions from property tax attorneys, because I believe there really should be a bright line between, you know, the decision making and any contributions, right? I don't believe in that pay to play politics, and I think that's one of the big problems that's happening at the Board of Review. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, you get elected, which, you know, we're speaking that you get elected. You're now going to go in with Samantha Steele and Larry Rogers Jr. How do you maintain your level of independence that you are working on behalf, obviously you're working on behalf of all of the tax buyers, but the people who are disadvantaged the most are homeowners. So how are you going to be able to show your independence on that and be fair in the process?
Right. Well, first of all, my background is working in affordable housing and housing policy. So that's where my heart is, understanding the needs of our brown and Black communities, which is where my life experience comes from, being from Humboldt Park and working on the west side and the southwest side on affordable housing over the years. So that's just where my sense of the concern comes from and my own passion, because I've watched our communities be stabilized by skyrocketing rents, skyrocketing property taxes. And I want to make sure homeowners don't get forced out of their homes. If they want to sell and move somewhere else, that's fine, right? But at the end of the day, we just have to have a fair, transparent, modern, and professional office that makes the decisions based on assessment data, not based on favoritism, right? So we need the Board of Review office to do a better job of gathering up and using all the available assessment data. Because as I've talked to staff that used to work there, they talk about really not even a good discipline in having a robust, complete file when someone moves a file forward and asks a commissioner to vote for a reduction, because sometimes it's just a wink and a nod and do something for my guy and I'll do something for your guy. We can't do that. We have to have fair professional assessments. We need to be more transparent so that the public can hold us accountable and see what we're doing, because they've tried to keep it pretty opaque so you can't really see what's going on because of all that favoritism. So, we need to be robust in all of our assessment data, and there needs to be some agreement on methodology between the assessor's office and the Board of Review, which there have been conversations about that, but they haven't gotten there yet. And I think that will be an important early step that we need to arrive at as well.
Yeah, and I want to personally thank Fritz Kaegi, because Fritz Kaegi, over the last 8 years, I've been in real estate more than 40 years, and I have learned more about the Board of Review and what the Board of Review has been doing since Fritz Kaegi has been the assessor. So we were not made a prize of that because, nobody paid attention to the Board of Review, but they have significant influence. So what else would you like to share with us? By the way, George Cardenas, for the viewing audience, George Cardenas received $4,500 from Trump's firm and another $9,000. And a couple of months later, Trump got a $48 million reduction. George Cardenas has also received $259,785 in campaign contributions from top property tax appeals attorneys. So you know who he's loyal to. So you got a couple of minutes left. So what would you like for us to know in these final couple of minutes?
Yeah. Well, I do think, there's a lot of confusion out there about how property taxes work, about why bills have gone up. And I just really encourage people to engage in real conversations about the issue, right? I think there's work to be done around bringing property tax, bringing more buildings back from vacancy and onto the property tax rolls. There is a bit of an incentive to keep properties empty, and we need to change that, make sure that we don't have so much disinvestment and strips in our communities that are vacant because property tax policy moves it in that direction. So we need to change that. But I think the biggest overwhelming thing we can do is change the lever right now around this pay-to-play politics that's happening with all of the reductions going to those who don't need it the way we do. Here's the thing: property taxes are not based on our income, right? Our property taxes go up, but that doesn't mean our income goes up alongside it, right? And we need to change the system in a lot of ways, and some of those ways will also require changes at the state level and elsewhere. It can't all be done at the Board of Review, can't all be done at the assessor's office, but we need to change those levers that we can. And right now, the Board of Review is one of the most important ones.
Right. And I also think, educating us or educating the public more that will be able to help the public to make more demands on the General Assembly to change the laws, to make sure that their enforcement and the policy is much better, because this policy was set up mainly by two people who got very wealthy, and both of those guys are out of office and went to prison. Ed Burke and Michael Madigan. So as the general public being more apprised of that and educated upon that, we certainly can do much better at that. And I think with you there, along with getting Fritz reelected, I think that puts us in a much better position to make this system a lot more fair. Juanita Irizarry is running for the 1st District of the Board of Review. What is your punch number?
112, punch 112.
Punch 112. Juanita, thank you very much, and all the best to you. And we'll look for you at your watch party.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right, folks. Up next is joining me is the current Cook County Assessor, Fritz Kaegi, who is running for his 3rd term. He is our endorsed candidate. Welcome to the program, Assessor Fritz Kaegi. How you doing?
Hey, Mark. So good to see you. Thanks for inviting me. Good to be here with all the viewers here tonight.
Good. Thank you so much for being here. This is we are bringing on all of the endorsed candidates. We just had Juanita Irizarry on, who is running for the Board of Review, and you are running in the 2nd term, or your 3rd term, as the assessor. So, what would you like to share with the voting public, and as we are going into these last hours before we go to the polls to make our final decision on these very important races?
There are really high stakes in this race and in the races for board review. Literally, we are at the critical juncture for moving reforms forward or having them snatched all the way back, having property tax appeals lawyers, big commercial interests steal this office away, get away with taking it back to a pay-to-play culture. And that's what's at stake here. Every time a big commercial property owner gets an unjustified reduction, it's a tax increase on all the other homeowners and small businesses. And if they're getting reductions that they don't deserve, this is one of the greatest injustices that we have in our economy here in Cook County. And that is what we've been seeing. This is why I got into running for this office, to make this office fairer. You certainly don't run to be assessor to get public adulation. That's not why you should be doing this. You should be doing this work to fix things that were broken, to make them better for average people. I consider it a noble cause. And we have a chance, to drive forward reforms at the assessor's office. And you need an assessor who goes to bat for homeowners, so that then, when assessments get to the board review stage, where if Juanita's elected, they won't be making cuts to big commercial properties that are unjustified, that are passed on to homeowners. And together we can move this system in a really great direction that's good for homeowners and fairer for everyone. So that's what we have at stake. My opponent's being funded by more than 100 property tax appeals lawyers, being bankrolled by them, including the former law partners of Michael Madigan, the lawyer who gets the reduction for Trump Tower. All these guys are like parasites making money off of the rest of the property tax system, and it comes at the expense of the homeowner. Mega donors or people who've given gargantuan amounts of money to Trump. We don't want the assessor's office to be run by them, because, of course, they see the opportunity to get even more unjustified reductions for themselves and do it at the expense of everyone else. So that's what we have at stake, and that's why this race is so important.
What is going forward? Obviously, you've been working on great reforms, and as I said to Juanita, I am much more educated about what's going on in the Board of Review because of you, of your access to helping us to understand what the Board of Review does and how they have been impacting the system. That's never been exposed to us before. I've been in Chicago 40 years. That's never been exposed to us before. Most of us thought that the Board of Review's office was like a waste of time. of an office, so we didn't really pay much attention to it because we didn't understand it. We didn't have the information. What are and thanks to you for doing that. What are some of the reforms that you have put in place that makes it more fairer for homeowners? And what are some of the things that you're looking to continue going forward?
Sure. Let's talk about what we've already done, and the public and homeowners haven't had a chance to realize all the benefits yet. That's one. And then two, we can talk about what we can do going forward, which really excites me. So first of all, it used to be that commercial assessments were artificially low and intentionally so, that they had no relation to what they are actually selling for in the market. And that meant that other people would have to make up the difference for it. And then when commercial properties were getting huge reductions at the assessor's office and at the board review, that was something that homeowners had to make up every single dollar through higher tax burden for them. What we've done at the assessor's office since I've been in office is to make sure that the biggest commercial properties, no matter how powerful, no matter how special, that we're going to value them in the market just like the market values them themselves, or the way they value themselves when they go out to borrow money. And that's been found to be accurate. Our commercial assessments, based on a national panel of experts who looked at the more than 1,000 transactions that happened in the first 3 years after the pandemic, they looked at how our assessments shook out versus how the numbers were shaking out of the board review. And they found out that on a weighted average basis, our assessments were on average accurate. The board review was cutting those values 25% too low in 2 out of the 3 years and 10% too low in the third year. What does that mean in practice? That means that so much burden, hundreds of millions of dollars transferred on to homeowners every year. In Chicago this year, that dynamic meant that $700 was added to the bill of every single homeowner in Chicago that wouldn't have been there if those cuts had not been made at the board review level. So, and what this meant is that in 2/3 of our Black neighborhoods and 2/3 of our Latino neighborhoods, if my assessments had held, assessments that have been found to be accurate, in 2/3 of the Black and Latino neighborhoods, bills would have been flattered down. But that is not what actually happened, because that $700 was passed on to homeowners. That drove almost all of the increase in Englewood, in South Shore, in Austin, where bills went up about $800. And in Englewood, that was a doubling of the typical bill. So that's what we can realize right now based on what we've done if we just have fewer unjustified cuts happening at the board review. But there's so much more we can do going forward. Let's talk about that. There is a roadmap for better commercial assessments that was produced by this national panel of experts. Part of my job has been to shine a light on this problem. The same reason why you're talking about this, why you're more knowledgeable about it. I also wanted to make sure that the county board was studying this problem. And so we had that study done because I've been calling for it for years. Well, they came up with more than a dozen recommendations. And that includes more data sharing between the board review and the assessor's office, a change in methodologies, working off of a common data platform, funding for the assessor's office to be defending its assessments at board review hearings, a variety of other changes that will result in fewer cuts at the board review. And I'm 1,000,000% behind those recommendations. And we want to have a board review that's committed to accepting those recommendations too. That is an incredible opportunity that will be good for our homeowners and our communities. So that's one. Two, we do things more than just assessments at the assessor's office. We also administer exemptions, which are a kind of property tax savings that are something that can be applied to everyone's bill, but you do have to apply for it. And we have already done things like auto renewal of the senior exemption, auto renewal of the exemption for people with disabilities, auto renewal for exemption for veterans with 100% permanent disability, but we can also do auto renewal of the senior freeze. And that would help more than 130,000 senior homeowners who right now have to go through the rigmarole every single year of demonstrating their income, even though the state has a computer that has their income there. We don't have to put people through this unnecessary bureaucratic burden. We can just have our computers talk to each other. And that would help a lot of seniors too. So that's another thing we can get passed in Springfield. Third thing we want to do is get a property tax relief program in place in our state. Right now, Illinois spends $0 on property tax relief in its $55 billion budget, when 29 other states have property tax relief programs. We need one. In these states, it's called a circuit breaker program. We should have that too for anyone whose bill that has spiked more than 25% who meets the income qualification if your income's below $100,000. So those are the three things we want to work on. If we have a pro-reform board review rather than one that's committed to making excuses and protecting the old pay-to-play culture, that is a wonderful opportunity that can be realized at this election.
Now, that circuit breaker tax release program that you're talking about, that has to go through the General Assembly. Is that correct?
It does. It has to be passed by the General Assembly. It needs to be funded. Now, the county could do some funding for it, so that the state doesn't have to stand alone. What we've been told by leadership in Springfield is that we need to design a program that can be implemented statewide, not just for Cook County. Fair enough. So we have a framework for doing that. And we think one really good thing is to have counties put up some money for the property tax relief program, and then have it be matched at some multiple by the state. So if the state, if the county, Cook County contributed, say $40 million, the state could contribute 4 times that. And then we'd have a program that would be able to meet a lot of need for, probably about 250,000 homeowners who experience those bumps in their tax bills. And then we'd be cooking with gas right there. This would be really a terrific opportunity, and I think a political opportunity for our leaders in Springfield. When we do polling and surveying of the public, the number one issue for everyone is not crime or education or other matters which kind of preoccupy our legislators in Springfield. Is property tax, and they can address this giant problem that affects so many people, that so many people are confronting this issue of affordability, by taking advantage of the opportunity to create a program like this. Now, we know our state doesn't exactly have a lot of money lying around, but on the other hand, they've created a lot of programs that have had hundreds of millions of dollars in annual commitments. So why don't we have property tax relief be at the top of that, of the priorities, or at least have some priority in our $55 billion budget to say, isn't it worth having a couple $100 million a year for property tax relief in our state? I think it is. And that's what we're driving forward. And you need an assessor to take advantage of the role here to fight for things like that.
And do you know if do you have a consensus of how much support that something like this would you would have at the General Assembly now that 2 of the biggest culprits are no longer there? Michael Madigan and Ed Burke are no longer a part of the equation. Doesn't mean that the system has been broken, but do you know, or do you believe that you have more support there for that going forward now?
Well, history has a long arc. 10 years ago, Madigan was at the height of his powers. So was Ed Burke. They were predators on everyone else in the system, making huge amounts of money for themselves. No one ever thought they'd be gone, yet they are now gone. People thought the assessor was going to be there forever. He didn't even have a challenger in 2014. Well, the people spoke in 2018. And, now we have on board the South Suburban Mayors and Managers, which is a really critical organization representing dozens of villages and cities in the South Suburbs, which is a critical constituency for anyone who wants to move up in Illinois politics and be a leader. We have the Southland Regional Mayoral Black Caucus, which backs this. I've written an op-ed with the leading mayors in the West Suburbs and South Suburbs, the communities that have the highest tax rates, supporting me on this, doing town halls. And I need the public here too. If we win this election, that's going to be sending a message to all the legislators in Springfield that property tax matters. People are going to put in place people who want property tax relief, who are fighting for it. And the arc of history is long. It's going to move in the right direction, and we have a real chance at this interval of the election to send a message on that.
Well, we're absolutely going to make sure that we continue to educate the public and continue to get the public on board with this, so that you could have that kind of force. And public officials that are fighting for us can't just do it in a silo or by themselves. They have to be backed by the public, and we're going to continue to do that. I want to thank you very much for coming on, and we wish you all the best tomorrow. And we're going to be stomping the grounds and trying to get every person to go to the polls and to vote. Go ahead. You got the final word.
I'm so grateful, Mark, to you and all the people in our group with us here tonight who've been focusing in on this issue. Sometimes we can all take a little bit of pride in being ahead of the game on what the big issues are, and you guys have really been leaders on this, and I really appreciate everyone here. And we're going to bring more people along with us, and winning this election is going to be a big part of that.
All right, Fritz Kaegi, Cook County Assessor, running for his third time. Make sure that you go to the polls. And what's your punch number?
Oh, man. All right, now you got me. I should know my punch number. My mom's best friend was Jackie Grimshaw, and punch number was the most important thing. All right, I'm going to check with my team to see what it is right now. I should know. But in the meantime, I'll be the first name that you can vote for on the ballot for assessor. That's right. I'm in the first position, and I'm just checking with my crack political team here. I want to make sure I give everyone the right number. Okay, while I'm waiting for that, I'll be the first name listed on the ballot for assessor, and then you'll also see Juanita Irizarry down there on the ballot for board review. And if you also live in the northern district of Cook County, you also have a choice in voting for Samantha Steele for board review, who does not take donations from property tax appeals lawyers, against another challenger. So that's also a very important race.
All right, fantastic. Okay, we certainly appreciate it, Fritz. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, okay?
Okay, all right, Mark. Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, all right, take care. We got to keep moving along.
Later. Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, up next is our guest is coming in, is our endorsed candidate, Donna Miller, who is running for the 2nd Congressional District of on the far south side, as well as some parts of the south side and the south suburbs. Welcome back to the program. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks so much for having me back tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back. Yeah, thank you for coming back. All right, so what do you want the viewers to know about Donna Miller and why they should be supporting and voting for Donna Miller? She is our endorsed 10 by 10 to win candidate.
Which I truly appreciate. I appreciate all your support. Well, here we are on election eve. So it's been an exciting race. I look back where I started from July 9th. That's when we entered this race. And it's been a long summer all the way up to now. But I have run on my record. I have run on the facts of the things that I want to support and continue to support on the congressional and federal level. I have run to make sure that we are connecting the south suburbs, the city of Chicago, and Danville and Kankakee throughout the 2nd Congressional District. I have 5 pieces of legislation ready to go once I get to Congress. Those are things that I have been advocating for as a Cook County Commissioner, 3 related to healthcare, one related to social media safety, and another related to environmental justice. These are things that this current administration has cut very directly and put no resources towards. So not only do I want to put back resources that we have been taken away, but I want to expand them as well. I can't believe that this administration has cut women's research for healthcare completely. Women are about 51% of the population. We need to put that funding back. So I look at all of the things that I've been advocating for. The culmination of my life's work really is coming into what I can do as the 2nd congressional congresswoman for this district and make changes for people. Everyday people are hurting. I heard from so many people that they're afraid that their health care is going to leave them in a point that they aren't going to be able to afford health care or even have a place to go. That's where we're seeing access to care being cut across every part of in our country. But I say specifically in the 2nd congressional district, where we have an urban, suburban, rural part of the district. I will need all of your help and support to make sure that that happens, because these are not isolated incidents that we can just make happen by ourselves. We need people who care about these issues to come and advocate. I look forward to the time when Congress will function as a place where we can have congressional hearings, which we are not having at this point right now, where we bring people in to talk about the issues in our communities like healthcare. I look forward to working and partnering with organizations that want to see economic development, like we've been talking about here for so many years, like we've been talking about championing the South Suburban Airport, and that would connect all of the 2nd congressional district, but not only here in Illinois, but that will make us part of a whole international and global economy and provide us with jobs of the future, not only for this region, but for the whole nation and international as a whole. So just some things, Mark, that I think that I have been focused on. I know that we are aligned on, which I am grateful for. And I think that we can all work towards making sure that we're vocal advocates for these issues.
Now, you served as Cook County Commissioner. How long have you been a commissioner in Cook County?
I've been a commissioner for Cook County for 8 years and currently represent the South and Southwest suburbs, which is about 27% of the 2nd congressional district. So I know the needs of these communities, and I've seen how multiple levels of government can actually work together from a county level, state level, federal level to provide resources. And that's what I'll be also doing when I go to Congress.
And what would you say was one of your greatest achievement as a Cook County Commissioner? You know, as voters, unfortunately, you know, we don't pay attention to other important offices as we do some of the other more noted offices. But what would you say your greatest accomplishment thus far as being a Cook County Commissioner?
I'd say thus far, you know, I've spent 3 years working on maternal health issues and held hearings over actually about 5 years, but I started the hearings about 3 years ago. And coming from a large public health institution, a public health hospital, like Cook County Hospital is, we see the disparities in healthcare that can affect people who don't have the ability to pay. And now with the cuts that this administration has put forth, $880 billion cut on Medicaid, we're going to see a lot of people with the inability to pay and take care of themselves. So I've been advocating for maternal health resources because we have a maternal health crisis in this country, and very specifically in the state of Illinois. I was able to secure funding from Cook County to have the first ever doula program. I've got about $3 million for that program. And actually, I'll be excited to see the results of what happened the first year of inception of this program come out in the next month or so. The program's been in place for 1 year now. And how we can carry that forward. I know that there's other pieces and aspects of maternal health that have been focused on in Congress, but they've been stagnant just because of this Congress not being able to get things done due to the administration. So that's one of my biggest achievements that I'd say that I can wrap my hands around and take to Congress immediately. And we have to have healthy communities, and that starts with mothers being able to deliver and carry a child full term, and also have a successful pre and postpartum healthcare. So we're not at that stage right now. I've been across the country already talking about maternal health disparities and what we can do about that. Having a doula program not only raises awareness for the mom and her family, but it raises awareness for the community to say there's something we can do. And the reason that we say there's something we can do about that is because that The studies say that this is a 90% preventable problem. Anything that has 90% prevention, we should do something about. So providing a doula is something. There might be other aspects that can help along the way, but we need to see what that looks like. And we need to get focused on how we can make sure that women are taken care of to a successful level. We had a story right here in the South suburbs. Many people may have seen this story where a woman went to the hospital and ended up having to deliver her baby after they discharged her from the hospital because they told her she was not ready to deliver the baby. And then she did, in the car with her husband by themselves, because they don't listen to women, and they certainly don't listen to Black women.
How do we prevent that? How do you prevent that in a policy that you're talking about?
We prevent it by, so doulas are mid-level providers. Doulas are sort of like advocates. They can teach you how to look for things that are not going right. And so you can advocate for yourself. And advocacy just means that we have better communication. I've talked to so many physicians who said, what's the biggest problem? Lack of communication. So if we want to rewind the tape and go back to medical school with some of these physicians, maybe we need to teach physicians how to listen better. Healthcare literacy is a huge part that we could actually do something about. And that takes, that would take us having to revamp a medical system that's not built for us right now. We need to build it for us. But in the meantime, we can put these mid-level providers in place that can advocate or teach us how to advocate on our own behalf. But it also puts, physicians on notice, if you want to say that, on notice that, we're not just going to take your diagnosis, or we're not just going to take your treatment plan as the only way to go. We're going to challenge it. We're going to say, hey, maybe this is what's better for me as a person, because I know what's going on with my body. Maybe this is what's better for me because I might have heard things that are better treatments that why didn't you offer me those treatments? So I think that when we put in place this mid-level provider, that's what a doula is, to come in, that we would have a better chance at advocating for ourselves. And, no woman should die as a result of having a child. And especially with the state-of-the-art healthcare systems that we have in place here in this country, and the facilities that we have right here in Illinois, we have academic teaching hospitals here. We have to make sure that they are teaching the right questions to ask. They're treating patients with the advocacy, with the compassion and transparency that they deserve, and not treating one group different than another.
Well, for the first time I'm speaking with you, that I've heard someone talking about, and I've heard many conversations talking about maternal health and Black women being 3 times more likely to die during childbirth than their white counterparts. But I've never heard anybody talk about that it is 90% preventable, which is startling to me that conversation is not being had. And maybe that's not being had because there has not been any willingness to fund it. So thank you very much for doing that. And I think you need to continue to sound the alarm at that when you get to Congress. Thank you so much. I'll give you the last word.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And healthcare disparities are going to be what I'm going to focus on in Congress, but also I want to focus on veterans. I currently chair the Veterans Committee here in Cook County. Veterans healthcare benefits have also been cut. So we see a familiar theme, whether you're having a child, whether you're a senior, whether you're someone taking care of a loved one, whether you're a veteran, healthcare is at the core issue. I heard from several people today as I was out at the polls and talking to people in the community that they're concerned about their healthcare. We cannot live in a society where we are in fear of having a catastrophic disease or any disease that would end our life because we don't have the right healthcare system. So I will end on that. I would look forward to partnering with everyone who wants to care about this issue. I want to have town halls where we talk about these issues, where people come out and share their stories. We can't keep these stories to ourselves because it could help change policy. And that's what I want to do when I go to Congress.
All right. I think that would be a good idea to have, as soon as you're elected, to organize the first big town hall so we get kicked off to a good start. All right. Donna Miller, who is running for the 2nd Congressional District, what's your punch number?
Punch 31. I'm number 1 on the ballot. Punch 31 to get it done with Donna.
All right. We'll look forward to it. Thank you so much. All the best to you.
Thank you, Mark. And thanks everyone for listening. Take care.
All right. Take care. All right, folks, make sure that you go to the polls. And if you live in the 2nd Congressional District, Donna Miller is our endorsed candidate. And I tell you, this is certainly one of the core issues in the 2nd Congressional District is the South Suburban Airport. But one of the other core issues for me is dealing with the safety of Black women as well as the health care of Black women. And she has that as a part of her platform. And we all have to make that a part of our platform, is that somehow Black women are expendable, and we have to focus on making sure that we protect our women. After all, we're all reproduced from Black women, and I am married to a wonderful Black woman and have a lot of Black women, good Black women in my life. All right, next up is the candidate that is running for the 7th Congressional District. That's number 7 on the west side of Chicago that comes up into downtown, but he'll give us a little bit more about that district. He is running for the office that Danny Davis is retiring from, and he is the endorsed candidate by Danny Davis. But he is also the endorsed candidate at 10 by 10 to win, and he is back with us again. State Representative LaShawn Ford, running for the 7th Congressional District. How you doing?
Good, Mark. And 10 by 10 is always good to be on the show and with 10 by 10 because you guys are fighters, and that's what I'm about.
Absolutely. I was saying I spoke and moderated a panel at Cole on Saturday. I said that, I have been working with a number, not a whole lot, but a number of people who are in public office. And one who has always been accessible is that you have always been accessible. We might not have agreed on everything, but one thing that I can agree on is that you have always made yourself accessible to us to work on issues. And so we are certainly deliciously proud to have endorsed you overwhelmingly in that race for Congress. So tell us what it is going to be what's going to be your primary or your initial primary focus once you're elected to go to Congress.
Well, I think it starts with local politics, making sure that we're able to get with our community-based organizations and do everything that we can to organize. It's better to go to Washington organized with people that you fight with. So immediately, I think that we have such a great opportunity to unite the South and West sides of Chicago, Proviso, and even down in the downtown area. I think that that's the first order of business, to make sure that we're able to bring everybody to the table. Then you get to Washington, you go there with the community support, and then you could fight for resources to come back to the community.
You've been endorsed by Danny Davis, and I want to dispel some other things that I think that has been rather very misleading about this whole thing. And of course, these super PACs that are coming out with all these disparaging advertisement. Now, I remember when you went through and you stood up and you said, I'm going to fight this. I'm not going to plead to this. But you fought this. And there's been a lot of misinformation that's put out about that. Now you fought this, and those charges were dismissed. I think there were 17 charges or something like that were dismissed, correct?
That's right. The DOJ that brought the charges against me, after 2 years of investigating and digging, they dropped all charges. The DOJ dropped every charge.
Yeah. Oh,
And
okay.
so, I mean, there's no felony convictions. It's clear that the ads that the cryptocurrency trillion-dollar industry is running against me is false and misleading. And it's unfortunate that they would smear my reputation that I have worked so hard to maintain. But, no weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Well, that's for sure. Well, listen, we are there with you. We're working hard, have boots on the ground. Tomorrow, we still have election day tomorrow, all the way up to 7 o'clock. So make sure. What's your punch number?
Punch number 31, FordForCongress.com, punch 31, number 1 on the ballot.
All right, folks, let's go. Make sure you go to the
Thank you
polls
very
over there.
much for the endorsement.
All right.
Thank you for the endorsement, and I'm indebted to 10 by 10, and I hope that you do everything that you can to push me to greatness.
Well, we are. We're certainly going to be hitting the ground first thing tomorrow morning and all of those
I
areas.
mean,
So yes,
well,
yes.
I mean, push me to greatness. I mean, push me to greatness to make me get some stuff done in Washington. Not about getting elected. I say we need to make sure that we bring home the money and pass legislation that you see fit. That's the greatness I'm talking about.
We certainly, that we're going to push you on that. All right.
All right.
Okay, we'll be with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Up next is our next endorsed candidate is Michael Carbonargi. He is running for judge. This is our endorsed candidate for Judge Michael Carbonargi. Welcome to the program. How you doing?
Mark, I'm doing great, and I apologize. It's the night before the election, so I am driving around, so I am talking to you from my car. So I apologize. I was hoping to be somewhere like representative and be someplace else. So thanks so much for having me. I'm so so excited to have 10 by 10's endorsement. Thank you.
Well, we're actually very glad to have endorsed you. Your record speaks for itself. So tell us, okay, you're running countywide, is it right?
I am. I was nominated by Justice Joy Cunningham and unanimously appointed to the bench last June. So I'm a sitting judge right now. I sit in the Daly Center and the traffic court, and I'm running to be elected to a full term countywide. So everyone in Cook County can have the opportunity to punch 136 and vote to keep me on the bench.
Okay, you're in the traffic division there, and I guess that's where most of the new judges start there in the traffic division, and then you move. So, what is, as a judge, because we can't certainly talk about specifics, but as a judge, what is your aspirations as a judge that you would like to, and where you would like to serve on the bench?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've been a lawyer for more than 25 years. I spent my entire career in public service. And I started out working, it's going to date me a little bit, for Senator Paul Simon back in the 20th century. And I started my legal career as a senior attorney and a prosecutor with the Securities and Exchange Commission, where I prosecuted Ponzi schemes, pay-to-play, insider trading, corrupt Wall Street folks who took advantage of people with little means. I then was honored to be appointed to the Cook County Board of Review, where I spent a decade serving alongside my good friend Larry Rogers Jr., helping people of Cook County pay only their fair share in property taxes. President Biden and Vice President Harris asked to appoint me to be the regional director for the Department of Health and Human Services. So I was honored to serve the White House on the Biden-Harris administration, running HHS in the 6 states of the Midwest. We made Americans healthier, stronger, and safer. And then right after I left the Biden-Harris administration, I worked in D.C. as counsel on the Senate Judiciary Committee. I was proud to be endorsed by the Cook County Democratic Party, the Chicago Federation of Labor, the machinists, the operating engineers, the Teamsters, having Speaker Welch's endorsement, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Congressman Danny Davis, the highest bar rankings in my race. I've been found qualified by the Cook County Bar Association, the Black Women's Law Association. But Mark, to answer your question, it's not just the experience I've got, not just the education. You also have to bring empathy. You have to be an active listener when you're a judge. And even though it's traffic court, as we were just saying, I'll give you one example. It came up again on Friday. It comes up pretty frequently. In Cook County, if you get a ticket and you don't show up for court, the court's going to suspend your license. Okay. So I had a woman who came in on Friday morning. She had run a stop sign 6 years ago and her license was suspended. She was coming before me to get her license unsuspended. I said, what's changed in the past 6 years? She said, well, Your Honor, I want to drive for Amazon, make deliveries to support my family. I said, great, I understand that. Let's unsuspend your license and let's get you moving forward. Corp counsel for the city jumps up and says, Your Honor, we have the matter of the stop sign ticket. We'd like a $100 fine and $254.50 in court costs. I said, hold on, you want $354.50 from this woman. Allegedly, she ran a stop sign 6 years ago. No property damage, no personal injury, no damage whatsoever. And now you want her to pay $354.50? City said, yes, Your Honor. I said, here's the deal. You get the officer who wrote this ticket 6 years ago. You get him or her to come in, and you get him or her sworn under oath. And if they remember writing a ticket for this woman running a stop sign 6 years ago, you get $354.50. The city said, Your Honor, we'll dismiss the ticket. Judges have to be active listeners, and they need to remember this above everything else. We meet people where they are, but we do not leave them there. We're given an honor and the ability to show people grace and dignity, and that's what I do in my courtroom every day.
Well, traffic is something that is near and dear to myself. I think that because our system out here, that we have in a lot of sense abdicated real traffic enforcement to electronic means, which is a different conversation. But I think that the traffic court division, and I have always been a proponent of saying that people who get a ticket, and certainly traffic, we all have to be responsible drivers. But if you get a ticket, there is no better place than to go before a real judge, to have a judge to listen to both sides and get a fair ruling on that. I mean, I have a ticket right now. One of the things I want to just mention, and I'm not sure how judges can impact that or influence it, is that I got a ticket recently, and I'm going to challenge the ticket. But one of the problems is that I called to get a date for traffic, and I was told that, well, the officer has 30 days to turn that ticket in. But on the ticket, it says you have to comply or you have to respond within 7 days. I have not been able to get in contact with anybody to get an actual date. So what happens when where somebody has been trying to get a date and can't get a date, and they don't end up going to court because they don't have a date in court? So what happens under those circumstances to make sure that it is a fair process?
Now, Mark, that's a great question. And that happens frequently. And in your situation, that's unfortunately too common. Chicago police, Illinois state troopers, suburban police, sometimes they're late in getting their tickets in. So it happened again last week. I had a number of folks who showed up for their hearing and I didn't have their file. And I said to them, hey, listen, you did the right thing. You're here on the date that the officer told you to be here, but the officer didn't submit their ticket yet. The clerk's office hasn't noticed up the calendar. I just make a note of it and say, no harm, no foul. We're going to have you come back in a couple of weeks. A couple of things folks need to realize if they get a ticket. First of all, you have the right to appear by Zoom. Nobody needs to take time off of work, arrange for childcare, take the train downtown, pay for parking downtown, whatever it is. You can do all of traffic by Zoom, and all of that information is on the clerk of the court's website. And I get people all the time. They come on the Zoom screen. They're in their work uniform. They're at a work site. They're at their job. That's exactly what I want to see. They're responsible. They want to take care of the ticket, but they want to do it on their time. The other point is, if you know you can't make it, just like you said, call the clerk of the court's office up to let them know, because they will tell you your next court date. And as a judge, I'll see when that is, and when can I expect it? We want to make it as easy as possible for people to just work through the court system. Sometimes that's a language issue. And again, if anybody doesn't speak English in my courtroom, I stop everything and make sure we get an interpreter in there. And then for too many folks, it's their first time being in court is for traffic. Where do I sit? What do I say? Who do I check in with? Let's make that an easy, respectful process. Get someone in, get someone out. And then also later on in the court system, let's make sure that if you're working through the justice system, sometimes it doesn't have to be a sentence of a crime that follows you for life. It can be something that we dismiss. So an example would be, a lot of times I tell folks, listen, if you'll take a plea here, we're just going to make this suspension for supervision. I mean, so for 4 months, we're going to just make sure you don't have a moving violation. At the end of the 4 months, if you haven't had a moving violation, the ticket's dismissed. There's no conviction on your record. Your insurance doesn't find out about it and go up. There's no conviction on your record. So again, judges need to be active listeners and really work with the folks who are coming into court.
All right, Judge Michael Carbonargi, thank you very much. He's running countywide. Make sure that you go and support him. What's your punch number? 136, Mark. Thank you again. I'm so proud to have your endorsement and support. Thank you. Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, be safe out there. Okay, and up next, our next endorsed candidate is Judge Linda Sackey, who I had the pleasure of meeting on this past weekend. And so she is running, I believe she is running countywide. Judge Linda Sackey, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Wallace. How are you?
I'm fantastic. All right, what would you like to share with the listening audience?
Well, I am a lifelong Cook County resident, born in South Shore, raised in Uptown and Marquette Park. I am a proud graduate of Lane Tech High School, Princeton University, and the University of Chicago Law School. I graduated from law school in 2006, so I have 20 years of legal experience. That includes work in both private practice and in public service. I was unanimously appointed as a circuit judge by Chief Justice Neville and the justices of the Illinois Supreme Court to fill a vacancy when another judge retired. And in Illinois, when you are appointed to the bench, you have to run in the next election, and that's the process that I'm going through right now. It's been a privilege to serve in the traffic division, where I hear misdemeanors such as driving under the influence of alcohol, as well as reckless driving. I've always been passionate about fairness and about service and about justice, and serving as a judge combines all of those things.
All right, and so we just spoke with Michael Carbonargi, which is another one of our endorsed candidates.
Mm-hmm.
What is your aspirations of being on the bench? Obviously, you start in the traffic division.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have aspirations of working in a certain specific area as a judge?
I wouldn't say that I have aspirations of working any place in particular. My background is mostly civil. So civil law is what I'm most familiar with. And, the chief judge of the circuit court is the one who makes the assignments, and he looks at court needs as well as the judge's background in making that decision. So I would probably end up in somewhere civil, but I have to tell you, I wouldn't have anticipated enjoying being in the traffic division as much as I do. So this experience has taught me that sometimes you might end up somewhere and love it, and that wouldn't have been what you would have guessed.
Yeah, because I guess, people will look at and say, well, you're in the traffic division because,
Mm-hmm.
That in some cases, people will look at that as being the lowest level, I guess, in some regards. But however, it is every area on the bench is critical because
Mm-hmm.
traffic division is very critical because it means the difference between somebody being able to take a family member to doctor's appointments or being able to go back and forth to work.
Absolutely.
Or, so it impacts people's lives, tremendously.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it matters very much to the people who are coming before me in court, whether they have, for instance, a $754 ticket versus being able to do community service. That's a big impact on people's lives.
Yeah, and I always say that if you get a traffic ticket, it is much better to go before a judge to hear your case,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to some of the electronic devices that are out there that
Mhm.
are finding and feeding people, and people end up with debt that they can't afford, and they have to make a decision between do they pay this or do they let it double, and in most cases, but they don't have the fair opportunity to go before a judge to at least present their side of it and have a judge make a decision on that, as opposed to the other system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and you've been on the bench how long now?
I've been on the bench since January of 2025. So this is 14 months.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so you've enjoyed being on the bench, and you're going back before the bench. And again, you are endorsed by 10 by 10 to win, and we certainly hope that you are successful.
Thank you.
And we certainly look forward to hearing that. So once you are reelected, how long is your term on the bench?
It's a 6-year term. So once you're initially elected as a circuit judge, every 6 years you come up for retention, which is different from this process in that you don't have an opponent. It's just a yes, you are to remain on the bench, or no, you are not. And, typically judges who are working hard and doing things the right way will typically be retained.
Okay. All right. What would you like to share with the audience, and why the audience should vote for you? Obviously, we think they should vote for you, but they should hear from you.
I'd like to share with the audience that I understand the importance of each case that comes before me to the individual that's standing before me. I make sure to listen to what the person is saying. I am very big on fairness. I want to give everyone a fair opportunity to present their side of the case. And I try to make decisions in view of justice and fairness. I am a hard worker. I'm very diligent, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the people of Cook County with integrity.
All right. And you are down in the Daly Center?
I am in the Daly Center, yes. Actually,
Okay.
Judge Carbonargi is my next door neighbor.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Linda Sackey is running countywide. She's serving in the traffic division, and certainly we want to continue to support her. And what is your punch number?
My punch number is 134, and I'm running in the Cobb's vacancy.
Oh, you're running in the Cobb's vacancy.
Yes.
That's Cynthia Cobbs?
Yes, indeed.
Cynthia Cobbs is one of my very dear friends, and certainly one of my favorite people. We worked to try to get her at the Supreme Court level. She's an appellate court justice, bright, brilliant. And so you'll be, I'm sure that you are able and standing in her stead, and will be a great service on the bench there. So we want to thank you very much for that. And so we're going to give you the final word. What else would you like to share?
Final word is that, I spent the day out at the polling place in Bellwood, and it was really wonderful to be able to interact with voters, to share who I am with them, to explain why it is that I'm seeking their support. I really enjoy talking with members of the community and working with people. And so I am asking for your support so I can continue to do so. Again, punch number 134.
All right, Judge Linda Sackey, and I said judge because she is currently a judge, and we want to have her to be officially elected for the next term. There, punch 134. Linda Sackey is running countywide, and that is the Cobb's vacancy. All right.
Yes.
So he's in a great office there. Thank you very much, and we look forward to it. And we look forward to celebrating your victory.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Have a good night.
Thank you very much for being here. Our endorsed candidate, Linda Sackey, Judge Linda Sackey, for the Cobb's vacancy running countywide. So make sure that you punch 134. 134. This is, and I'm really excited to bring the candidates certainly that we have endorsed. Now, the people that you are seeing on tonight are people that we have endorsed, and they are people that we had the opportunity to interview that was willing to come before the committee of 10 by 10 to win. And of course, 10 by 10 to Win is an independent Black voting bloc of voters made up throughout the city of Chicago and the county of Cook. We want to increase that capacity and make it a stronger voting bloc so that we have a stronger voice for all of our community, so that our communities are equitably represented and receive the resources equitably to our communities. I've said that we have in our city council, we have 20 Black aldermen. I believe it's 21 Black aldermen. We have a Black mayor, Black Cook County Board president, 6 Cook County commissioners, 22 state representatives, 10 state senators, and 4 Black United States congresspeople. However, we still have the machine politics in place, and the machine politics that we may be Democrats, most of us are Democrats, but the machine Democrats, we have got to deal with the machine Democrats because many of them are legislating to corporations and large corporations because it's large corporations that write the checks to their campaign coffers. However, we organize ourselves in such a fashion we can neutralize those checks, and we can also hold accountable those people to vote for the interest of our communities. This last budget that came out of the city council, I believe it was 18 or 16, somewhere around there, and I'll have to go back and check my records. I don't want to, but a large number of the Black alder persons, because there's alder women and aldermen, voted against a budget that would have included the head tax for corporations to contribute their fair share to the deficit that the city needs to make up. Aldermen on the south and west sides of Chicago voted against that bill or against that budget to protect corporations, but they voted for a bill or for a budget that further taxed people who are already struggling to make ends meet. That is because many of those people are still owned by the machine politics or the machine Democrats. Now, I am not saying that Republicans are an option, because they are not an option. But what is an option is that we have to have a much more progressive aligning in our representatives. And those people who would vote in favor of corporations every time and vote against the interests of the people that they represent, those are the people that we need to target, and those are the people that we need to take out of office. It's not about not liking anyone or personally working against anyone. I don't even know them. But what I will say is that we must organize ourselves together. WE, which is, in my view, the strongest word within the infrastructure of a democracy. And what we have to do is we must stop turning on each other. Because I saw much of that in these last cycle of elections, the last federal election, and I saw it also in the local elections, where we were turning on each other. And it is important that we turn to each other, because in the Black community, there are those of us who may be doing well. Some are doing better than others, but we have a whole lot of people who are working hard every day, and they are not able to get over the hump. We have got to work as voters and to collaborate to make sure that people have the opportunity to earn a good living so that they can take care of themselves, their families, and they can have some enjoyment in life and be able to have a savings, to pay for a car, to pay for a home, to take their children or their families on vacation. And then we have to create opportunities for those who are at risk, or those who have made some mistakes in their lives, or made some bad decisions. That we have to create opportunities for those people at the bottom, and not allow for our government to be in place to pander to the rich. The rich do not need for the government to pander to them. Government was built so that it could advance the common good. That's what government is about. It is not for CEOs. You don't run a government like you're running a business. A business is designed to do one thing, that it wants to make a profit, and it makes money. That's not the way that governing is. Governing is about governing to the common good, meeting the needs of the most vulnerable people that need the help the most. That's what government is supposed to be about. How can we have a system in place that is going to help the masses, and help the masses reach their potential? Wealthy people, nobody is begrudging wealthy people. Wealthy people that want to continue to do business and want to make money, I support that. I support that. But I do not believe that we have to have winners and we have to have losers. And our government should not be set up to be a feeding spool to the wealthy. And if there are people who are serving in government and they are only working to the whims and wills of the corporatists, then those are not people who are really serving the people, because the people who are at the top are in a much smaller number than the people who are in the middle and the people who are at the bottom. And that's where we come in into play. Now, they are manipulating us on several fronts, where they may get a few people and provide them with maybe some contract or some resources, and to have them to go out and to pretend as though that these few people are doing well, so that must mean the masses are doing well. That's not governing. That's not equitable. And we have to have a shared sacrifice and a shared commitment to hold the people who are in public office accountable. Now, I'm not saying that we bounce everybody out of office. What I am saying is that we put ourselves in a position to say that to the people who are in office that, okay, the largest and the resources, they have to be equitable. There has to be a different makeup. And these are the things where we see that our communities need in order for our communities to be made whole and healthy and to get people out of poverty. When I came to Chicago, we had a couple of poor white communities. There are no more poor white communities in Chicago. That is a good thing. There should not be any poor white communities, but there also should not be any poor black communities. And there are too many poor in the black community, period. And that is something that we can fix, but we can't fix it under this system. And again, I am not suggesting in any way, shape, or form, because they don't have anything to offer, they don't have a plan, and they never have really been concerned about a plan of how you help people out. The only thing that the Republicans and the so-called conservatives have been about are tax cuts for the uber wealthy, and to deregulate the safety measures that keep us safe, keep our waters clean, and to keep our resources flowing well. That's all that they have to offer. They have never offered comprehensive plans of how do you help the poor? How do you help men and women that have been incarcerated? How do we change the policies where people have been wrongfully convicted here in Chicago more than anywhere else in the country? That we need to change laws like the certificate of innocence. If somebody was convicted of a crime and if found to be innocent of that crime, that person should receive an automatic certificate of innocence and expungement. They should not then have to go and prove that they are innocent of that offense. We have a case right now, Kevin Jackson, who we are supporting, who was a young man that was convicted of a first degree murder at age 19, served almost 24 years in prison. The appellate court looked at that case and ruled, even after a Supreme Court case upheld the lower court's decision, but an appellate court re-looked at his case and found that that case should never have gone to court, found that the detectives on the case were married to the assistant state's attorney, and the detectives on the case lied about the so-called witnesses' polygraph test and forced the witnesses to sign a statement that the witnesses later retracted because they acknowledged that they were forced by the detectives to sign a statement that Kevin Jackson was a shooter when Kevin Jackson was not even there. Kevin Jackson was home at that hour in his bed, only to be picked up and charged with a first-degree murder, served almost 24 years. Now, as a result of being exonerated of those charges, the state's attorney has paid this law firm $1.2 million to block his certificate of innocence. And that tab is continuing, even though that the state is not going to retry him because there is no evidence that puts him anywhere in the crime. And one of the victims who was shot by the shooter, and by the way, they know who the shooter is, who was shot by the shooter, said that Kevin Jackson was not the person who shot him. So the point is, those are the kinds of things that we need. And we have to have people who are in public office that are willing to fight for the common person and to fight for the masses more than they are willing to fight for the corporatists. That's what government was built upon. That is the basis of government. Government has never been about building an infrastructure to pander to the wealthy. That's not what government is about. All right. So that's what I mean by it is important for us to unionize, to build up our own independent voting bloc so that we could have just as much of an effect and influence on what we want for our communities on the south and west sides of Chicago and throughout Cook County. That is the importance of our engaging together, so that we have to turn to each other because we need each other in order for our communities to be strengthened. I believe that the south and the west side of Chicago, every area of the south and west sides of Chicago should be robust, vibrant, strong communities. And the over-proliferations of guns that are being fueled into our communities, that should not be. We talk a lot about people who have these guns, but we never talk about how these guns are being funneled into our communities. Do you know that there is not a single Black manufacturer of guns or bullets in the world. Not one. Not a single Black manufacturer or distributor of guns or bullets in the world. Yet, they flow into our communities very easily. Guns and drugs flow in, jobs trickle in. So that means that there is no conversation about how those are actually getting into our community. And we have to deal with that. All right, I see in the green room that a couple of our candidates are here. One, Tiffany Brooks is not. She's supposed to be up, but I see her there, but she is not yet connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse, and I am going to go to. I think there she is. Okay, Tiffany has finally got connected. All right, welcome to the program, Tiffany. How you doing?
I am exhausted.
All right. Well, I know running for public office is an exhausting basis, but you are running for judge. You are our endorsed candidate for judge. So tell us what office you're running for, the first sub-circuit?
I am running for the first judicial sub-circuit, yes. So I'm a candidate for the Walker vacancy.
That's the Carl Walker vacancy?
Yes.
All right, my good dear friend, Carl Walker. All right, so give us, we have just a few minutes, so give us your ask and why you are the best candidate. We believe that you're the best candidate because we endorsed you.
First and foremost, let me say thank you. Thank you for the endorsement. Thank you for taking the time out to have us here and talking to me. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity. And my ask is that everyone go out to vote, please. Take someone with you to vote, please. And tell 25 more friends to go out and vote. So we're promoting voting, voter engagement. I also ask that if you are in the first judicial sub-circuit, which ranges from Randolph Street to 103rd Street, from the lakefront east, and then it goes west. So I encompass parts of the 34 and 42nd Ward in the loop, in the South Loop. I also encompass just a small portion of Bronzeville in the Gap area, the North Kenwood and Kenwood, Hyde Park, South Shore, Calumet Heights. So I'm in 3rd Ward, 4th Ward, 5th Ward, 6th Ward, 7th Ward, 8th Ward, 9th, just a small part of Rosemore in the 9th, and Pullman, and then a little bit of 17 in Auburn Gresham, a little bit of Woodlawn and 20, and 21, which is a small bit of Auburn Gresham as well. So I am in all of those wards, and if you're in those wards or you have family, friends, loved ones, anyone, neighbors, please ask them to punch 145 tomorrow for attorney Tiffany Brooks. This is my 16th year as an attorney. I've practiced in both civil and criminal law, but most importantly, I've always represented the community throughout my entire career. I currently work for the city. Previous to that, I was the general counsel and the chief of staff for the clerk of the circuit court. So I'm very well versed in the court system as an attorney and on the other side. So I know the court system and the operational systems and the computer systems. I know the clerks. I know what it takes to manage a courtroom. I've had a lot of management experience. So I'm asking you, if you want a judicial candidate that is fair, that will treat you with respect and integrity, and that holds the tenets of giving a voice to the voiceless, remaining neutral and impartial, but also using what we call
I think your screen froze a little bit. All right, I think there you go. All right.
Not
Tiffany?
sure what's up with this connection, but what I was saying is I don't know where I stopped, where you stopped hearing me. Do you remember, Mark?
Well, let me ask you. So you're in the first judicial subcircuit, the Walker Division. What kind of cases will you be hearing?
Well, the first subcircuit is geographically just based on where I live, because I live in the eastern part of the city. So I can be assigned to work cases across Cook County. It doesn't matter, and there's not a specific type of case. What most people don't know is that all judges in Cook County start in traffic. We start in the traffic division. It's high volume. It gives you the opportunity to know how to manage and learn the courtroom setting and what to do there and how to effectively process the cases while being fair is supposed to be the outcome.
Okay, all right. So that
and
is
from traffic, then you're assigned out.
Okay, all right. Now you said you're with the city. Now, are you working with the Corporation Council now?
No, I'm a first deputy commissioner for the Department of Business Affairs. Okay. So I work with the businesses across the city of Chicago. So there is some prosecution and adjudication involved in that because we represent businesses that are bad at, not represent, we license all businesses across Chicago, but we prosecute and adjudicate businesses that are bad actors. So if you have a business that is not in compliance with city code, if it aligns with our jurisdiction, we would be the agency that would pursue that. There's also our consumer protection part of our agency, which if there's a fair work week or minimum wage or paid sick leave violation, things of that nature, we also investigate those and prosecute those as well. So there is a legal component to my job.
All right, very good, very good. All right, Tiffany N Brooks, she's wearing in the first judicial subcircuit, the Carl Walker vacancy, punch 145, and she is our endorsed candidate.
Tiffany for the people. Tiffany for the people.
All right, wonderful. Okay, well, listen, we are pushing you out on our digital networks and doing the very best we can to make sure that we get you elected on tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming on the program, and all the best to you. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, wonderful. Okay. All right. All right. Take care. All right. Up next is Meridth Hammer. Meridth Hammer is running in the 17th Judicial Subcircuit, and that is, I believe it is. Well, she'll tell us who that is. But Meridth, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Hi. I am like Attorney Brooks, exhausted. I had to take a nap. But if you're not exhausted, that means you're not doing what you need to do to win this race. That's what I believe. Yeah. Hello, Mark Wallace. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am fantastic and can't afford to be tired. There's a lot of work.
There is a lot of work to do. The work really begins after tomorrow, right? After we win. I tell people I'm going to take some time to rest, maybe a week, and then I got to go to work.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Meridth, you are our endorsed candidate for the 17th Subcircuit. What vacancy is that? Are you running? Who's vacancy?
That is the Honorable Lloyd J. Brooks vacancy. Lloyd was Judge Brooks was an associate judge. So I'm in a new subcircuit, the 17th Subcircuit, which used to be a part of the first subcircuit, but they've added 5 new subcircuits in 2024. And so Lloyd was Judge Brooks was an associate judge, and when he became a full circuit court judge last cycle, his vacancy was converted. So now I'm running in his vacancy, and I have his signature on my ballot. I'm on my petition to prove it. And I'm hoping he voted for me. But yes, the Lloyd J. Brooks 17th Subcircuit, it's east of the first subcircuit. So we start in the 7th Ward in Chicago at 79th Street and go south, the 10th Ward and the southeast suburbs. So villages of Burnham, Cal City, Dalton, East Hazel Crest, Fort Heights, Chicago Heights, South Holland, Phoenix, Stager, Thornton, Markham, east of Western. It's about 19 or 20 different villages in the southeast suburbs. It's a lot of ground to cover, and I've
Yes.
covered it all. I have
right.
my running shoes on, still.
All right, wonderful. All right, so give us some background about what are you doing now, and what have you been doing to prepare you for this next chapter?
So I have been an attorney for 25 years. I'm licensed in 3 different jurisdictions. And so I've licensed in Illinois, Indiana, which is where I was born and raised. And I lived for a little while in the District of Columbia until my mom got sick. And I moved back to Indiana. The doctor told her she wasn't going to live past 18 or 19 months. So I moved back to Indianapolis and cared for her. She lived for many, many years, although she passed away in 2019 and changed my life forever and ever. And I miss her dearly. I have to mention her. She gave me a gavel when I graduated from law school. So I'm running. So I'm getting emotional now. I knew I would. So this is very important to me. But anyways, I practice in probate, Mark, real estate, and mortgage foreclosure defense, commercial litigation, and labor and employment law. So mostly on the civil side of the house. I've also served the last 3 clerks of the circuit court as first deputy general counsel. I've also served as an administrative law judge for the Illinois Department of Employment Security, where I managed 12 other and supervised 12 other administrative law judges. So as Attorney Brooks mentioned, I've seen the courtroom from all different sides, from the clerk side, as an attorney, from the clerk side, and additionally as an administrative law judge. I was administrative law judge here in Illinois and about 12 years ago in Indianapolis as well. But primarily, right now what I'm doing is I'm focusing on my solo practitioner, my solo practice business. And I primarily do probate. I do some tax appeal work, and I help small businesses resolve disputes, because it's not all about litigation, right? Small businesses really can't afford to get into lengthy trials litigation. So I help small businesses, quite often, more often than not, settle or resolve disputes so people can move forward and get about the business of living their lives and taking care of their families. So I believe that what sets me apart from my candidate, my opponent, there's one other person in the race running for the same vacancy, is my diversity of background and experience. Like I said, I've got a diverse background. I also have a degree from Purdue University in computer science and software development. So a lot of attorneys shy away from technology. I embrace it, right? I believe we can use technology to actually help people get better and greater access to the court system. That's been my experience, especially in probate. My experience has been, there's so many judges who sit in probate who have never practiced in probate before. And this is not a sexy area of the law. It's not, high publicity, but people get into probate when a loved one passes away. It throws the family in crisis, right? People can end up in probate for years, right? Losing the family home, where their loved ones have worked so hard to acquire. That's the wealth in the family. More often than not, my clients are in probate for years. We end up in mortgage foreclosure, in chancery at the same time, and also in housing court, because the house will fall into repair. So I've seen how we can do it better. Because, like I said, I'm licensed in Indiana. I can see how we can use the case management system, this $40 million case management system that we purchased in Illinois. Same thing in Indiana, and they tend to get these cases moved through the system more quickly than we do here in Illinois. It saves time and money, and often it saves the family legacy. It's the wealth that for our community, for Black communities. This is the way I see it, Mark, right? It's not sexy, like I said, but we need to focus on it, because I believe in creating wealth, especially in the Black community. And a lot of times the wealth comes from the real estate. So that's what I do. That's what I've done. I've built houses before. I've done a lot, Mark. Like Attorney Brooks was saying, you know, I've been in management for many years. You know, I believe that being a judge requires leadership. It requires, you know, management experience and being able to manage a caseload in a courtroom and, you know, other support staff and personnel. You've got clients coming before you who have, or individuals coming before you and appear before you from all different walks of life. They're attorneys as well. So our lived experiences inform the decisions we're going to make on the bench. That's what I believe. And I believe that the courts should meet the needs of the community. So
All right,
that's
fantastic. Fantastic. Listen, I know that you all typically start out in traffic once you get elected, but with your vast background and experience in probate, that might be an area that you would end up in terms of looking at those types of cases.
I look forward to it. I look forward to moving through traffic, because we all have to go through traffic to get us familiar. We've never been a judge before in Cook County, so we become familiar with the process, low risk, but high volume. About 250,000 cases came through the Cook County traffic cases came through Cook County courts last year. So high volume, we move through it. I want to get through in 6 months and end up in probate. That's my preference.
All right. Okay. All right. Meridth Hammer, what's your punch number?
142. You know what to do. And remember, it's hammer time.
All right. Meridth Hammer running for the 17th Judicial Subcircuit, the Brooks vacancy. Thank you so much. She's our 10 by 10 To Win Endorsed candidacy. We wish you all the best on tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
for coming by.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. All right. And our last and final endorsement, our 10th endorsement that we have endorsed, is Bianca Brown, and she is also running for the 17th Judicial Subcircuit, but she is running in the Carroll vacancy. Welcome to the program. How are you?
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. Congratulations on the endorsement. We're really glad to have you as our endorsed candidate, and our people are doing all that they can to get the word out. To get people to go and support you. So where's your district?
My district is 17th Judicial Subcircuit. So it starts at 79th Street in the South Shore area, and it goes all the way south, up and including anywhere from 79th Street all the way through Sauk Village, and then all the way west to Western. So it's a large area to cover, city and suburbs, but definitely Thorn Township as well as Bloom Township in terms of the south suburbs.
Yeah. I would imagine, and I've never really run a campaign, but I would imagine running for judge is probably harder than running for some of the other offices, only because, we don't know a lot about, the different judges and that sort of thing, and you don't get the same kind of coverage. So how is this experience running for judge? Is this your first time running for judge?
This is my first time running. I know people don't think it is because of the way I'm running. I always tell people I didn't just wake up and decide to be a judge. This has always been a dream of mine and something that I was intentional about. And so it definitely been hard though, in terms of actually doing it in terms of the practical matter. Yeah,
I can imagine. So you said that, this was something that you always wanted to do. Is there an area, obviously you don't determine where you go, but is there an area that on the bench that you would like to end up and working in?
Yes. So I practice largely in the law division, which is the largest division in the Cook County Circuit Court system. The civil cases in general are 80% of the court system. I know people, kind of think of the court system and think of criminal, which that's definitely important and a big deal. But I think it's also important to know that 80% of the court system involves civil cases. I predominantly practice in the law division, which is personal injury and medical malpractice, as well as civil rights. And so those are multi-million-dollar cases that I litigate all the way up and through trial. So that's the area that I would like to go into because, you know, it's not a lot of Black and brown people there. I had a judge tell me once that, you know, you're the only Black woman up here, you know, litigating multi-million-dollar cases. And at the time I was doing it for CTA. And so I never really saw myself except, you know, here or there. And so I think it's very important that we have representation everywhere.
Yeah, you know, and certainly to have, I'm not sure how many judges. I've been trying to find that number out, and nobody's been able to give me that number, even for people who are on the bench. I have a few people who I'm very close to that are serving as judges on the bench. In fact, my wife and I were married by a judge, Judge Leonard Murray. So. And my good friend Bernetta Bush is a retired judge, and then of course Cynthia Cobbs is somebody who I highly respect that's on the bench now. And so hopefully that, you know, you're successful at getting on the bench tomorrow. What else would you like for people to know about Bianca Brown and why you should be the person that they would select or elect to the bench?
I've been very intentional about my career in terms of what I always want to help people. And with that, I think there's always very important that I'm actually a defense attorney by nature. What I mean by that is I practice civil defense law, which I always tell people is very important because you can't have one side of the coin without having another side, and also somebody sitting at the other side of the table. I have practiced from the Illinois Attorney General's office up and through, you know, being chief attorney at CTA. And I always say that you know, my philosophy has always been to bring reason to the bench, bring reason to the clients that I serve, whether it on the other side. I've done federal cases that were against pro se litigants, and I always treated them with respect, with human decency. And I think that's always important on both sides. And so I always got credit and praise for being able to execute legally, but also give people on both sides of the coin a human experience. And so that is what I would like people to know. I think, you know, in the court system, people just don't feel like they're being heard. And that's important. They're not being heard from their attorneys. They're not being heard from the judges on the bench. And so it's very important for people to feel like whether the case is going either way, that they were heard and they had their day in court. And that's very important. I think, you know, people say it, but it doesn't really happen. And I don't see it happening often. And so as a litigator, I always want to help people, even when they're not on my side, but I want you to understand how to get through the system. And so I always pride myself on teaching people how to get through the system, as well as making sure that I'm always giving them a human experience, whichever side that I'm on. And so that is what I will bring to the bench, is an unbiased, professional, accountable perspective that I've created throughout my career.
What is the one thing that you would emphasize that you see that's being vital to being a judge, being on the other side, but being a judge, the one thing that you think that you would emphasize more of that you think that is not as emphasized on the bench?
You know, I think that there needs to be an emphasis on accountability. I say it often, and that means accountability from the judicial standpoint. Judges make mistakes. They do. I've seen it. I've been in trial when it's happened. I've called some judges out on it. I think accountability from the bench on down to the litigants, on down to the attorneys, as well as the clients. And that's important because anytime that you have a system that's supposed to be working together and there's a process, it's very important that no system is perfect. But if you can be accountable as to the things that are happening within the system as they are happening, I think that's most important. And that's kind of the thing that people skip over. They kind of glaze over it. And if something wrong happens, we can just do this to fix it. And I'm always very big on the details. And that's very, very, very important when you're talking about being a judge, let alone actually being a judge where people are trying to matriculate through the system.
All right, fantastic. Bianca Brown, we'll give you the last word. What would you like to say to the audience and to get their support to go to the ballots to vote for you? And what is your punch number?
My punch number is 144. I am the only candidate rated qualified and recommended to be a judge in my race. And just, you know, I am really passionate about the work that I've done. I'm really passionate about, you know, people experiencing the law in a way that I want them to experience it. And I think that that's something that gets missed in my profession. And so I always want to, I can't touch everybody, but I at least want to, you know, be a part of making the change that I would like to see. And so I would like people to support me for that reason. I've done a lot in my career in terms of helping people. I have a reputation of you know, legal knowledge that is just stellar. And that's not just from me saying it, that's from my judges and colleagues, opposing counsels, and not saying it as well. And so I just appreciate everyone's support. I appreciate everyone's love. I've been getting so much love at the polls already. So I really appreciate the support and love. And I hope that, you know, we can bring back this victory tomorrow. Thank you so much.
All right, fantastic. Okay, we got one more day, so you're going to have to get out there and get to the polling places and talk to people. And we're going to do our very, very best to see to it that all of you all are successful, that we have endorsed for the judiciary. It's very, very important. And thank you very much for coming on the program, and all the best to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Good night. All right, folks, those are our endorsed candidates for the judiciary: Judge Linda Sackey, Radiance Ward, Tiffany N Brooks, Meridth Hammer, and Bianca Brown. Those are our judiciary candidates. Please go out and vote for them. Punch 134 for Linda Sackey. And I didn't get Radiance's, didn't get her punch number. Punch 145 for Tiffany Brooks, 142 for Meridth Hammer, and 144 for Bianca Brown. All of our judiciary candidates, please make sure that you go get your ballots. Now, don't go down your ballots like many people do and, you know, do an any, mini, miny, more. So we're providing this information to you, and I'm going to loop this out in social media so that you can see them again going to the poll. And then you can also go to our website and take a look at our palm card there for the judicial candidates that we have endorsed. Also, Juanita Irizarry for the Board of Review for the 1st District, and Fritz Kaegi for Assessor, Donna Miller for the 2nd Congressional District for the U.S. House of Representatives, and LaShawn Ford for the 7th Congressional District. Now, some of you may be asking, well, why didn't you all endorse in some of the other? We do not endorse in races where people are not willing to come before the committee, because the committee needs to hear from them. Then the committee has to deliberate, and then we take a vote on who it is that the committee as a whole wants to support. I don't make unilateral decisions. I am one vote, although I'm leading the committee and the organization, but everybody has an equal vote, and whoever in any of the races gets the majority of the votes becomes the candidate that we collectively support. That's how our independent voting bloc works. And we are hoping to expand the voting bloc and become a very much stronger voting bloc throughout the city of Chicago and the county of Cook and the state of Illinois. But that's the way the process works. So make sure that these are the candidates that we endorse. I know that there are people who have sent me all kinds of text messages and emails, and I have sent them out the palm cards of all the candidates that we are supporting. And so I know that there are other important races like the Senate seat, the United States Senate seat that Dick Durbin is retiring for, and you have 3 candidates there. Actually, you have more candidates there, but none of the candidates accepted our invitation to come before the committee, so we didn't endorse there. So all of the candidates that you saw tonight are the candidates that came before the committee, and the committee took a vote on, and these are the candidates that came out ahead. So those are the persons that we are supporting for tomorrow, and we'll be out passing out our palm cards and making sure that people get the information of all of the candidates that we have endorsed. All right, I'm going to just switch gears a little bit here. That there's been this thing that's going on with respect to the boycott, the Target boycott, and Jamal Bryant, who is the pastor down in Atlanta, Georgia, and the women who actually started and organized the boycott out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and somehow Jamal Bryant made a statement, or came out and made a statement, that the boycott was over. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it is a serious problem that is pervasive across the board on so many fronts, which means and which implies that we have to do a much better job of communicating with each other. Now, I don't know what his motives were. I'm not going to sit here and make any opinions about what his motives were, because I don't know what his motives were. I know what a lot of people are saying, but I am not going to say that because I don't have any evidence of that. The evidence that I do have is that he made a statement, and he made a statement without conferring with the people who organized, or certainly started to organize, the boycott against Target. And Target was targeting DEI, really meaning targeting Black and brown people, particularly Black people, is what they were referring to when they started talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we know what the code was for that. And Target, which does a tremendous amount of business from the Black community, decided to be complicit with the call from this current administration to end DEI. And as a result, there was a boycott that was called, because Target was eliminating, not only were they eliminating jobs, but they were also eliminating opportunities and people who are doing business with Target as a result of this. So there are many people who are hurt by this. But Jamal Bryant calling the end to the boycott without having a conversation with the other organizers of the boycott was tremendously irresponsible and inexcusable, in my view, because Jamal Bryant knows that he was not the person who initiated it, and he also had conversations with these women who did initiate it. Why would you be making a unilateral decision to end the boycott when, in fact, you had not had a conversation with the people who started the boycott? So I simply say that there is absolutely no excuse that Jamal Bryant would have ended that boycott. He didn't talk with Nakima Levy-Armstrong, who is a civil rights attorney and the founder of the Racial Justice Network. He didn't talk to J. Lonnie Husan, who is the executive director of Kyer, that's in Minnesota, and Monique Colors Doty, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter in Minnesota. He never talked to any of them about the boycott, and it is inexcusable. And I think that his credibility is one to be of question. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Get out and vote and support our endorsed candidates. We'll see you next week right here on another edition of The People Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio.